Hey, good morning, all. Today we have Abhilash. He is VP of AI in Bolster, and he's going to help share his thoughts and how the Gen AI market is evolving, what type of security threats are coming, and what type of things that we as enterprises needs to take care. So, welcome, Abhilash. Thanks for coming and joining us in this cybersecurity series.
Hi Naveen, hi everyone who will be watching this. I'm Abhilash. I run research, AI, and security operations teams at Bolster. Our technology is a multi-channel threat protection solution. So we keep fighting external threats that are targeting brands on the web, social media, app stores on a day-to-day basis. And Gen AI as well as cybersecurity is the intersection we work at.
Very nice. Thank you. Thanks, Abhilash. Thanks for the introduction. So, as you see, right, Gen AI adoption has been increasing like pretty huge. So, what do you think about the adoption, and what do you think how you see? Is this like a bubble, or is this like the real thing which will be like exploding the market? So, what are your views on the Gen AI adoption?
I absolutely believe this will play a very pivotal role in our futures. It's not because I believe that this is just the first phase of Gen AI. We are looking at a very narrow intelligence at this point. We are at a space where our Gen AI models or our large language models or computer vision models are able to just consume information, digest it, and then give us answers based on it. Right? I mean, it's very, very narrow in focus. As our models keep getting better and there is more, of course, influx of capital into building such larger models and state of the art gets improved. I believe that we'll move towards general intelligence, and there is this whole concept of artificial super intelligence too. So, yeah, super excited about it. I believe that this is a must have for every product and service that is being sold out there. And I know that at this point, it's a premium that is being sold on top of every product or service. Like if I am a company, I'm saying, hey, I have a Gen AI capability in order to differentiate myself with other vendors. But 5 to 6 years down the line, this would be expected in everything that you sell.
Totally.
It's really about and that's where it comes down to specialization and expertise, right? Are you actually a specialized into applying these solutions, or are you just building wrappers on top of generic LLMs to go do it?
Got. Yeah, totally makes sense. And I think with your roles, right, you are a perfect blend of AI as well as you had the threat research also for Bolster, right? So, what are the most significant security threats that you are seeing in terms of adopting Gen AI? I think you mostly more deal with the AI front, so models and other things. What are the
Yeah.
most significant threats that you see?
So I'll give you from a perspective of what we see on a daily basis, and then I'll also jump into what we will probably start seeing in the future. So we at Security Operations Center at Bolster, we see tens of thousands of new phishing pages and active threats or impersonation attacks that come up on a daily basis, right? And some of these attacks are what we've already started seeing is these are all adversarial attacks which are being generated by Gen AI. So what attackers are doing is they are creating these catch-all phishing kits. So a catch-all phishing kit would be it has the ability to ingest information. So someone would trigger a phishing kit and it would just say now target Bank of America, and then it would start pulling information for Bank of America. It would create a custom phishing kit for Bank of America, and it will be readily deployable for it.
Oh,
They're able to do this for multiple brands. That you all it needs as an input is the name of the brand, and they are taking care of the rest of that in the backend. Um, it's just that we need to understand it's Gen AI is more of a double-edged sword, right? If it can be used for good, it can be used for bad too. And this is where we are seeing quite a few of these attacks evolve. And you probably would have heard of other GPTs like the warm GPT or the fraud GPT, which have like no limits and no bounds. You can go create ransomware code as you'd like. So yeah, we're looking at those, but there is another very important vertical to it. It's not just what bad actors are doing, it's also about protecting our employees or our people from inside the organizations, right? One of the biggest concerns that I would be looking into the future is the PII leaks. If my employee accidentally enters some PII information into an LLM chatbot, at this point we are really unsure of how this data is being stored in the backend. And also, if you of course, let's take the example of ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT introduces new models or new features every week at this point. One of those features is the data analysis feature, which is widely I've used, multiple people use it, right? And it's so flexible that you can just upload a spreadsheet to it, or you can just upload a PDF to it and start asking it questions, and it'll start providing answers to you. But how much of my PII is being entered into that spreadsheet, and how much of the company's sensitive information is being used for this analysis just for the ease of use? Yes, we are entering that information, but how secure is that, right? That's a very troublesome question that we need to start answering as soon as possible. And it's not just that. I believe it's not just the chatbot, it's also with chats on. I believe most every company that is actually trying to adapt Gen AI, they are trying to produce their own chatbot versions on their websites. If you go to someone's websites and start entering PII information that you should not be entering into a chatbot, also that is where I think they see more of these concerns moving towards in the adoption phase.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is like more PIA getting exposed to the Gen AI application, ChatGPT being the most widely used, but there are like hundreds of every company is developing Gen AI applications, and how they are internally using those things or using the data, it's out of reach. So basically, make sure that you are using security on your side itself, rather than don't even pushing those sensitive data to those applications, rather than deciding or leaving on them to what to do with your sensitive data, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think you should start adding layers of mitigation for your applications to make sure that you're not doing that. And of course, the external threat surface, as I've mentioned, will always stay. Attackers will keep coming up with new ways to hurt you, and it will always be a cat and mouse game between us and them.
Totally, totally. So, but totally here, so security is definitely does this for sure. So I think that's the use case it's got well. So, what apart from this, like, what do you think the existing? Because there are a lot of security solutions in the industry, right? So, do you think the existing security solutions are sufficient for the risks that you mentioned? That or apart from that, the Gen AI adoption is bringing to the table, because there's much more to that, right? Apart from that, models also coming into picture and all.
Right, absolutely. So, existing solutions, as we're just talking about, it's always a cat and mouse game. The attackers will keep trying to beat the existing solutions to get into your system. It could start with basic phishing to network intrusion to complete takeover using ransomware. So I think my answer would be yes and no, because yes, there are industry standard models. If you are always ahead of the industry curve, so for example, you keeping yourself updated with what's going on, right? If say one of the major players that is out there, at least ChatGPT or Gemini or one of these releases a feature, and then you completely understand the feature and you're able to build security on top of it and make sure that, okay, now they've released this. I expect my customers to do this with this technology. Why don't I go build this feature to protect my customers' data? Why don't I do this, right? We've also seen multiple, I think there has been debates around the ethical usage of AI, as well as the models that you were just mentioning, where ChatGPT or any of the larger companies have just been scraping data off the web, and it's just hard to that is where it becomes very interesting, because you definitely don't want to enter your sensitive information in there, but you also have to build a regulation around what you put on your website or what you put on publicly available information at this point. If
Got it.
say uh, uh, GPT-4 or GPT-5 in the future starts learning about something I put on my Google Docs, which is private to my company, I definitely do not want it to start answering questions around it.
Totally, totally, totally. And good use case, yeah, who knows? So, yeah, so what are the key challenges that you think are there while integrating Gen AI with existing cybersecurity framework? Because there are like, we have unicorns, big public companies in cybersecurity, right? So, and with Gen AI coming into picture, there is new landscape getting, new threat vector getting exposed. So, what are the key challenges that you think is there with integrating those Gen AI security solutions or to with those security framework, cybersecurity framework?
Oh, absolutely. When in terms of cybersecurity, you're looking at most of the data is built in terms of logs. I mean, you're looking at some logs, SOAR logs, or we have this huge amount of terabytes worth of logs that are being generated on a daily basis. Even for a company that's the size of, I mean, if you're looking at larger banks, it's pretty much more than that, right?
Right.
So. You're looking at the amount of data that needs to be ingested by these Gen AI models. That I believe is a challenge. The second piece would be the expertise itself. I mean, how do we implement these Gen AI solutions, right? Things keep some new feature keeps getting released every day at this point. I mean, it's so quick. I've seen so much change for just, RAG automation or using agentic workflows into production, and everything keeps getting upgraded. But each of these features need to be vetted. Each of these libraries need to be vetted. You don't know which package has which vulnerabilities in them. So just going, yes, there are packages like Llama Index or LangChain, which make it very easy for us to implement multiple workflows of these. But you really have to start vetting, vulnerabilities on top of these packages. You need to start digging deep into them. I believe they fall into three major buckets. One is your expertise in order to how can you deal with them from an AI perspective, and then your expertise in security perspective. How can you protect your own applications from being attacked if you're using this? And the other piece is, of course, the data being fed into these models.
Totally, totally. So, how do you ensure the ethical use of Gen AI in cybersecurity? Maybe because there are not only data, there are concerns coming like fraud, biasness, toxicity, blah blah, to different 10 OFs things, right? So, what do you think? How we as a industry, say AI security startups and all, how these guys can have ensure that the ethical use of Gen AI in cybersecurity?
So it's a very broad use case, right? I mean, we would need people from multiple verticals who are pitching into this to try to solve the problem. From someone who has been applying AI in cybersecurity, my perspective would be my first answer would be to anonymize the data. If you want to address ethical concerns or if you want to address any sort of privacy concerns, even anonymize all the data that is being fed into these models. It not just fed into these models, even when you're trying to put something if you're trying to open chatgpt.com and trying to enter your information, if I have a service that could just anonymize what I'm typing in, that would be helpful too. So I believe that's one where I would really focus on data anonymization piece. And the second piece is bias has always been a problem with not just Gen AI, but with deep learning or machine learning in general. It's it's just, let's take a very simple example, right? Our good old dog and cat classifier. If we are trying to build a vision classifier that's able to detect dog and a cat in an image, and if we train it with 99 images of dog and one image of cat, it's not going to help us either.
Yeah,
It is biased towards detecting a dog. So that is where it becomes, if most of our data is not diverse, and if all the data is biased towards one certain section, and at the end of the day, all the Gen AI models or the large language models are just mathematical formulae. They are just learning of what they are fed, and if all the data we are feeding is of type of a certain type, they are going to give a response of certain type.
totally, totally,
Um,
totally.
yeah.
Cool. So, what strategy do you recommend organizations to be stay ahead of these adversely AI attacks? Because there will be a lot of things are coming, right? And as a CISO or as a head of security, folks needs to keep in mind that what they need to incorporate in their whole organization to do this.
Absolutely. I think the number one perspective, I mean, the number one response from my end would be keep up to date with all the technology. I know it's easier to say than actually be with it, but try to have your team, keep up to date with the technology, what is coming out, how can you protect your employees or your customers from these things. And the other piece would be, because we can't do everything by ourselves, the other easier piece is to collaborate, work with different teams across the organization, or work with your own partner network across different organizations in order to knowledge share. And how do you build this whole knowledge base and action plans around how do you deal with a certain type of new feature or a new model that is coming out. And threat intel sharing is something that has been very important to us, at least in the space of phishing, dealing with phishing and large scale attacks. So it's really hard to for a single company to actually go out there and detect all the phishing attacks for a given brand, right? So we do work with multiple partners that are out there in order to identify and collaborate and get information. And that is something I believe that every CISO or security person should be looking into. How do they build more partners? How do they build more channels in order to ingest this information? And of course, you can. This is where I believe the current narrow version of Gen AI would be really helpful. It can ingest information from multiple sources, and it can give you a holistic picture of, hey, this is what this data is talking about. So that it can help, as well as one important thing that I think we touched upon in the first question, right? So Gen AI would be expected in the next few years. It wouldn't be a differentiator as much, unless you have something extremely specialized and you're not just using wrappers on top of these existing models. I believe one of the most biggest value adds would be human in the loop. So how do we empower humans in our organizations to consume information from these multiple sources and have co-pilots or any sort of an LLM running that can summarize stuff that can help them and work with them in collaboration to actually make decisions? And it just leads to faster decision making. And I believe faster decision making is one of the most important aspects if you want to deal with adversarial attacks.
Got it. So as you said, right, soon after, maybe in a couple of years, Gen AI will be like not like an anomaly. It will become like a part of your base image. So we used to do data science. We understand that, okay, if any new thing comes, it becomes like an anomaly. And after some time, if it is like a normal thing, that it becomes part of the base image. I think that's what is gonna happen with Gen AI.
Yeah.
Before concluding, I just want to ask you, what advice would you give to the cybersecurity startups like us, which are focusing on Gen AI security space, and what things they should be focusing more on to build up the product and to go to the customers?
It's all about understanding the customer needs. Of course, you being at the forefront of building startups yourself would are very customer centric in that nature. So just trying to understand what they're trying to solve. So what I have understood with talking to multiple customers and multiple founders like yourself or multiple startups is that customers don't actually care if you're using a Gen AI or if you're using 100 people behind the scenes.
Mhm.
They care if they are getting the best value for the money they're paying for a given service. So when we are taking in that example, how do we, my suggestion would be, how do we build this whole framework where a Gen AI solution can work with a human in order to continuously improve on what is being offered as a service to the customer? Uh, I mean, there are multiple advancements that have happened in the last 6 to 8 months. I think our agentic workflows have become much more robust, and just using that in order to extract information. And this is where I look at it, right? Can we take every human's workflow? Can we separate out the creative work and the mundane work? And can the Gen AI take up my mundane work so that this creative work can be, you can channel in more energy into the creative work
To-
and you can deliver the best to your customer.
totally. That's great. Cool. Thanks, Avilash. Thank you. Thanks a lot for your time today. It was really fun talking to you and knowing about the whole Gen AI adoption space, how big companies should be, as a CISOs and other heads of the security should be looking into it, and how the startups also, which are developing solution for the Gen AI security, should be working on. Really fun talking to you. Thank you. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Naveen.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.